No, it doesn't have anything to do with the solo album. As a matter of fact, it all happened very quickly. Um, and I was making plans for the solo album, also just doing the whole summer thing. And then I was gonna spend some time in Austin for the winter. So I was kind of like getting ready to free up my calendar for the winter and even like the fall and the winter. So I was getting ready to do all that. And then one morning I got an email from Ryan saying, so it goes like this: Sheepdogs fall tour. And I'm going, oh, okay. Well, I'm on their fan list or whatever. I keep seeing them and like in my email or on Facebook or Instagram, whatever. I like the band, right? So I was like, oh, they're announcing a tour. Open up the email and it says, "Hey Ricky," and like a lot of those kind of fan mails or whatever,
Auto
it starts
generates the
auto
name.
generated. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna keep reading here. And so we're going on a pretty extensive tour in the fall, blah blah blah. And we're in need of a guitar player, and someone suggested your name. And I'm reading this and I'm going, hang on a second here. That's not fan mail.
This is very personal for a fan
This is very, yeah, this is
mailing
very,
list.
so I keep reading and I read and it like kind of got in a bit of a panic attack because I was like, oh man, there's a lot of dates and in a lot of places. And I have all this thing planned out. I had rented an Airbnb in Austin. My girlfriend, my baby were gone to do this whole thing. And now all of a sudden, this is one thing. I'm like, I love this band. They're going to be playing in every city. I wish I was going to be like visiting over the course of the next few months. I get to meet new people, and it's the Sheepdogs. You know what I mean? Like, there's one band that has like that whole old school rock and roll, southern rock harmonizing guitars that I like so much that are relevant today, that have new albums coming out and stuff. Is like, how the hell is this happening? So I kind of like took a few minutes to kind of come to realize that this was real, and then I was like, oh my god, definitely I want to do this, but how is this going to really happen? So I spoke with my girlfriend and I said, you're not going to believe this, and she looked at me and she said, what are you going to say? I said, well, I've already made up my mind. I'm going to say, yeah, I think I want to do this. Obviously, there's you know we got to work out certain things, certain details, but if you ask me if I want to do it, I want to do it. She said, yeah, I think so. She likes the band too. So then we spoke with you know so Ryan said if I was interested and I had time and if it's something I might consider, that he would like to talk on the phone. So I got on the phone with him, and so he explained the situation, that Jimmy was taking some time off. He was playing with Blue Rodeo, has his solo record coming out. Also, he has a studio that he's operating, and he doesn't think that he could be on the road for now and stuff. So like, okay. Said, but the first show is in like, I think he had said the first show was going to be like September 15th or something like that. And this, we're talking like maybe we're August 15th or something. So I'm like, oh boy, this is really, really short notice. And I also had a bunch of shows I was doing at that point. We're in the middle of August, it's like
Yeah.
festival season for the first time in 3 years. We're able to play shows. So I was super busy. I was also tearing down the studio I had built during the pandemic because I knew I was leaving. So he said,
And
well,
sorry,
when's the quickest?
before you continue, the Sheepdogs also have like a huge discography. So it's not like they have
Yeah.
one album to learn. They have like, I don't know, seven
Yeah.
or nine or something crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, oh my God, well, how am I going to make this happen? Because there's all these parameters I got to deal with. And he said, well, what's the quickest you can kind of come and jam with us and see if it all fits? Because obviously, he's asked, but he's never really seen me play, or we don't know each other. We not cross paths or anything. So it was like basically not a shot in the dark, because there's some people have put in nice recommendations for me and stuff on their side, so that was very beneficial, obviously. But it's a pretty big gig to just decide to go, oh, we'll get this guy. So they wanted to see if the vibe would fit, and we had to kind of feel it out and jam. Um, so he decided that the best way to do it was to get together in a rehearsal room and just go at it. So I don't know, a week later or something like that, I was in their jam space in Toronto. I left in the morning, flew to Toronto. He came pick me up at the airport. We had some food. We jammed during the afternoon. We talked, and then it went well. I had the chance to listen to some tunes I kind of like have heard on the radio, some tunes I'd been listening on in my car and stuff. So I kind of knew the repertoire, kind of, but not really. I never played the songs in my band or anything like that. I had never played Sheepdog songs, so I was just going off memory and going off feel and vibe and trying to fit in basically, because like I said earlier in the interview, I'm not a guitar player that likes to do the same thing twice, or that is, it's not an easy thing for me to learn something and do this exact specific thing. So for me it was like, well, if this has got to be the way it's got to be, then I'm gonna have to be able to fit in being who I am. So I did that and was back at home sitting watching Netflix the same night with my girlfriend. And I was like, so how did it go? Well, I think it went well. I mean, it was fun. We hit it off. I think musically it can work, and it clicked. So a couple days later, he said, well, we'd be happy to have you on tour for the fall. If that's if you want to jump on board with us, it'd be a lot of fun. We had talked about certain specifics and stuff. So uh we kind of made it happen. And then he said, well, the first, can you make it to the first show, which would be September 1st, which initially was supposed to be in Sherbrooke, September 15th. Like, oh my God, okay, that's even closer now. So I had like even less time to make it happen. So we played around Toronto at Burning Kiln Winery. He said, it'll be a relaxed show. And it was a great show. It was a lot of fun. It was, after that show, I think that's where it kind of confirmed that it was going to work. Basically, I remember, being pretty confident, but looking at the set list and going, okay, that song, how's that go again? So I was like, nah, don't look at the set list. Go one song at a time. So that's how that went. And it went really well. I think the boys would say so as well. I mean, still there to this day, and we've become friends over the time. And but that, I think the most important factor was that we got along, and obviously musically we had some of the same kind of background. And I'm saying this, and it's kind of funny because I'm still learning to get to know the guys, because we've just basically jumped on the tour bus and started from there. It's like it was a pretty big undertaking for me to like leave for months with people I didn't know, living on the tour bus. It's 10 guys on a tour bus for months. And it's like, if you're going to get to know people, you're going to have to know them pretty quickly on a tour bus like that. So that was a lot of fun. And oh, I forgot to mention one of the factors that kind of set me into that little panic attack when I got the email with the list of shows that Ryan sent. So I'm just going to give you a list of shows just so you kind of get a sense of what we're looking at here for the fall, and see if that fits into your schedule. So I go down, and it's all cool places and cool cities. And I was going to be in Austin November 1st. That's when I got the Airbnb. It was like, it had been booked in April. And I got to tell you, I was pretty surprised to see on the list the Austin show that the Sheepdogs had on the list was on November 1st.
You had your accommodations
So,
ready.
so for me, that was like a sign, obviously one of the many signs, but that was definitely one that made me go, oh my God, hang on a second. This
It's impossible.
I
It's an
can't question
impossibility.
this. You know what I mean? I can't question what's happening in front of me. Like, there's no way no one could have planned it this way. This is just, so I kind of went for it. And from that point on, got to know the guys, and it's still to this day, like I said, like even we share music playlists, and we're on the bus where everybody's kind of playing tunes, and it's been a great adventure. Just to be able to be myself and play guitar and not think about too many things was just great. Just in having a great time. And I think that's part of the reason why it's worked so far, is I don't overthink it. And I also think that's the reason why the fans have been very welcoming. And I mean, Jimmy was a big part of the. I don't really know the other two guitar players that were in the Sheepdogs before Jimmy, so I kind of got to know the Sheepdogs a little bit more once Jimmy was in the band for some reason. Having crossed paths with Jimmy as a kid in certain festivals and stuff, we're the same age. So I saw him joining the band, so I was always kind of intrigued as to how things would develop and stuff. And I've always liked his playing and whatnot. So having to kind of like replace Jimmy was, for me, it was like it was a strange thing, but a very natural thing. We kind of had a bit of the same background, so I figured if it works with him, and probably will work with me. But I didn't overthink it, and I think that's what people like when they see the Sheepdogs, is it's real, it's honest, and I would not be able to be any other way. I'm trying to keep it real and keep it honest with them. Also, I'm not going to try and be Jimmy, and I'm not going to try and be any of the other guitars like Leah or Rusty or anything like that. It's it wouldn't serve them any good, and it wouldn't serve me any good either as an artist. And we've had some great comments about that. How like it's not just trying to replace somebody. It's actually a new energy. It's a new thing. It's a new era, and obviously the Jimmy era is going to be the Jimmy era. The other eras are going to be whatever they are. And now we're, I guess, in the Ricky era, and we'll see how that kind of develops and stuff. But it's been great so far. Uh, it's been a long tour. We've been around the UK. Well, some UK dates, Canada. Uh, we've done a lot of shows in Canada, a lot of shows in the States. We're taking a little break. Well, we're having one more show in Ottawa on January 28th, and then we're taking a 2-month break. And then there's a couple of other shows that just popped up, like the Australian tour, which is going to be a lot of fun.
Oh,
We're also playing in New Orleans on April 1st, I believe. And then obviously, when summer comes around, there's always stuff that pops up, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot to kind of move around and play new music, and we'll see how that kind of develops. I feel very fortunate to have had this opportunity because I've had offers before to be a guitar player for certain cool things, but having this kind of opportunity where I can just be me in the music style that I really like, guitar harmonies, playing the Les Paul, cranked up amps, cool fans, it's basically all there. You know what I mean? And it's like it feels like a natural thing for me, and hopefully it does for them too. I mean, it's a very new thing for me, so I'm not taking it for granted. You know what I mean? It's a fun thing that we get to talk about it. And I'm hoping we'll look back at this interview in years from now and say, you remember that? Yeah, it was great. It was like it's just the beginning, man. It's great.
the
It's been a
beginning of
while.
the Ricky era. I
The
like
beginning.
it's got a nice ring to it. The Ricky
Yeah.
era. Did Ryan ever share with you who recommended you to the Sheepdogs? Because that's a big
Yes.
recommendation. That's life changing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. He's their old guitar tech, Pooch.
That's a good nickname, Pooch.
Yeah. And he's a really cool guy. I met him in Toronto, and he saw me play, and we talked about Jimmy because he had told me at that point he was used to work with the Sheepdogs. And I was like, oh yeah, well, so you got to know Jimmy then. And then we talked about guitars. I had an old guitar. We started talking. He was their guitar tech, so he's very intrigued. And he kind of had a problem with my amp, so we checked that out, and we hit it off. He sent some pictures of like that old Firebird. I had an old 12-string Firebird that I really like. It's from '66. That's super rare. It's like a prototype that Gibson made in the '60s. So, our passion for gear kind of connected us. And then he saw what I did that night, and he actually mentioned that night saying, the way you interact with the band really reminds me of Jimmy's way of doing things. And I was like, I love Jimmy. So it's strange how things happen, but I felt like that conversation I was going to hear about this conversation again. You know what I mean? So, I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but when you go, yeah, I met this guy, I've met different guitar techs before, and we've had talks about gear and guitars, but I feel like our connection was, I don't know, how to explain it or what it meant or whatever, but I thought about that whole conversation more than once after that time. So in a weird way, it was like maybe somehow in the back of his mind, or he kind of knew this was going to happen. I'd have no idea how it, because this was like a year or months before. I can't remember exactly when I met him, but and obviously, from playing with different artists over the years, I'm sure some other people have also kind of talked to the band about me. They must have done their. I never really asked Ryan how it panned out more than what I know. Actually, it's a good question. It'd be pretty funny to ask him now, like as opposed to asking him when I first kind of saw him. Yeah, I might
And
ask him in a few weeks.
now,
I'll
now
say
you're
so.
intrigued. Now you
No,
won't be able to sleep at night. Yeah.
well, it's like one of these things. Like how I don't like to question things all that much, but it is a pretty intriguing thing. It's like how does I guess yeah, I guess it's just meant to be. Like I don't know. It's been a lot of fun though, and Ewan's a great guy. I mean, he's we've had a great time, kind of like getting to understand our two guitar sounds and guitar conversations we have in the show. As if you've seen the Sheepdogs before, there's a lot of interaction between the two guitars. Um, it's it's also kind of funny because uh, I'm discovering a new side of my playing, which is very cool. Like I'm discovering a side of my playing that is more like Ewan would laugh at this because the first time I showed up with my main guitar, which was the Les Paul Jr. with one pickup, the P90. It's like a straight up rock machine, and I had no, and like they just brought an amp for me and it was like plugged right in, um and he said, so yeah, it's kind of strange you brought that guitar. There's a lot of neck pickup. This is for guitar nerds, maybe more or less, but so I was like, yeah, I have a guitar with a neck pickup. I've never been a neck pickup kind of guy. And so when the shows kind of came around, I had a guitar, I had a Les Paul Black Beauty with a neck pickup on it. So it's a whole different mindset to play with a neck pickup. I don't know why. It's never been my thing, and it's it's kind of pulling a different side of my playing out. It's like almost a different language in a weird way. And also playing with you and then having to harmonize another guitar player as opposed to having another guitar player harmonize me is also a different dynamic. And yeah, we're from the same kind of like background of old school guitar players, and from the Fleetwood Mac stuff to the Allman Brothers stuff and all that. But I think we have a different perspective on that same music, which is very cool, and I want to keep that going, keep that growing. It's I think it's going to become something interesting.